actually 489, so it's almost 1.5. So this battery is like brand new, so I'm definitely going to steal this one, right? Because this is a good one. But you'll notice that, there's basically one value on that screen. So we can actually do this very same thing with the oscilloscope. So you can measure voltage with an oscilloscope.
Yeah.
So they have a fancier looking probe, as we call it, but they pretty much work the same way. And I might need your help here
Would
for
it
a
just be
second.
like straight because it's DC?
Yeah, man, that's exactly right. So you're gonna see a straight line, exactly, because it's DC. In fact, let me take this guy off. Let's do this. So actually, do me a favor, take that little pointy thing and just make sure it keeps touching the metal. So we're on, our probe is on channel 1. So I'm just gonna turn off some other stuff just to make it clear.
It's on the screen. You can see better from here, Debbie.
So channel 2, actually, you know what, we'll just work with, yeah, okay, so channel 1's the yellow line, and we're gonna slow the time down, and I'll explain to you in a second what it's doing. All right, so take the probe off for a second. See how the line changes? Actually, I'll just speed up a little bit. Do it again. Touch it, and let go. Touch it, and let go. So what's happening is the oscilloscope is measuring the voltage.
Yeah.
So when you're not touching it, the oscilloscope is actually measuring 0. But the key thing that the oscilloscope does is that it gives you a measurement of time, right? So the length of time that you held it on there is and then when you took it off, it's now represented on the screen. So they measure waveforms, what we call a waveform. So something that actually changes with time, and that's really, really useful when you're looking at signals that aren't DC. So this is kind of boring, right? If you just held that on there. It just goes up to 5 volts and boring. But if it was an AC waveform, or if it was a sinusoidal waveform, or if it was a digital waveform, it would actually be changing. But you can't really measure that with a multimeter because it doesn't give you any perspective of time on the screen. So that's one of the main things that a scope, as we like to call it, can do for you. This scope can measure 4 things at the same time. So if you had 4 different signals that you were trying to compare in time, you could see them on the screen. And all these knobs they look really like complicated and fancy, but basically all the knobs do is change the scale. So this time scale, so are we looking at a 10-second window, a microsecond window, a millisecond window, and then the vertical scale is the volts. So are we measuring a battery that's 2 volts, or are we measuring a power supply that's 300 volts? So you can kind of just change the scales, the vertical, and then the horizontal scale, the time scale, to make the signal of interest fit on the wave on the screen. So